get started. So this is called Enneagram Discovery. Like I said, it's my basic class. And I'm Vanessa Fernandez, if you don't know who I am. And I have been, like I said, studying the Enneagram for about 1.5 years. It has completely changed my life. I have been able to understand myself, understand my family, my spouse, and really grow in more ways than I thought I could from knowing the Enneagram and just learning more about it. So I'm excited to share with you guys tonight. And let's start with what is the Enneagram. So the Enneagram, the name Enneagram simply means a 9-pointed shape, like a parallelogram. Gram just means shape, and Ennea means 9. And as you can see, there are 9 different points here on this graph. And it's a personality typing system that's really thousands of years old. But until the late 1970s, it was only taught person to person in small groups. And it was thought to be this really precious and sacred and powerful teaching that was almost too much to be mass distributed. And so the teachers of the Enneagram were very protective about who they taught it to. And in the context in which it was shared, it was meant to be a very personal one-on-one discipleship type of personal growth teaching. And they felt that without a proper guide to help in the understanding of it and to help in the journey, that it could be misused and misconstrued. And so it's only been recently that multiple people through books, through podcasts, that we've been able to understand and come into contact with this powerful teaching. It is a personality typing system, but unlike the Myers-Briggs or the Strength Finder, which both deal with your actions, like are you extroverted or are you introverted? Do you feel things first or do you analyze first? Or what is your communication style? And all of that can be helpful, but that's your actions. That's your external personality. The Enneagram, in contrast, really separates people into the different numbers based on their core motivations. And this differentiation really is what makes the Enneagram so powerful. So why is it so powerful to know what our core motivations are? Well, when we know the why, we can begin to awaken to our true selves and break the patterns that are unhelpful. And I don't know about you guys, but we all have these patterns in our lives that sometimes we feel like we can't get out of. And knowing that you're a perfectionist isn't always the same as being able to transform and become free from the unhelpful pattern of needing everything to be perfect. And so the Enneagram, really getting at that core value, that core motivation, is going to allow us, and we're going to talk more about this, to find a path of growth. Some people say that the Enneagram is unhelpful because it's a navel-gazing, self-obsession. There have even been jokes about using the Enneagram as your excuse for bad behavior. Oh, well, I'm a 2, sorry, I can't help it. And of course, that's not what you want to do with the Enneagram, and that's not something that you have to do with the Enneagram. Really, that depends on your own personal level of maturity and growth. And as with any personality test, there is a danger to become self-absorbed with it. But I do feel like the Enneagram is one of those types that actually fosters turning outward and realizing that the way you see the world is not the way everyone else sees the world. And in that sense, instead of just telling you, well, you're an introvert and you're this or you're that or you're this kind of communicator, which really is very self-focused, the Enneagram says this is how you see, but there are also 8 other ways that people see. And it makes you become curious about others instead of just obsessed with yourself. It really is an amazing tool to study the human nature and the human race. And like everything in this world, the more we know about something, the better we can take care of it. So I think there's great value in becoming self-aware and becoming aware of the human nature in general and how all the different variations of it can work together and can be healthy together. And I know for me personally, it's been a great tool to know how to even care for my friends and my family, and how many times I've had a friend struggle and I would try to offer helpful advice, but my advice comes from the way that I see the world. and it would fall flat. And I don't know if you've had this experience where you try to give advice to a friend and you could just see on their face, that was not the right thing to say. That was not the helpful thing to communicate to them. It missed the mark. And one of the gifts that the Enneagram gives when you're able to understand how close friends and family see the world, your advice to them, your love towards them can actually be perfect for them and actually helpful instead of maybe not as helpful as we would like. So the Enneagram really gives us a path of growth. And this is the way the Enneagram is structured. It gives an explanation for how our personality actually developed and how we can return to who we were created to be, which is our true self or our best and highest self. And as you can see in this graph, each person is born with one of the 9 types. And each type has an original virtue that we were meant to share with the world. As we move through life, when we're children, we encounter the flawed and fallen world. We encounter the darkness in the world. And in order to survive this world, we have to transform as a means of protection. We create masks. And these are our personality. This is our armor that we put up, that we kind of need to make it. Now, our goal as we get older is to grow in self-awareness, which is what I'm hoping that you're here for, is to grow in self-awareness, to understand what number we are, to understand how we see the world, what our core motivations are. And after we have that self-awareness, we can move into the Enneagram work. We can understand what type of work we need to do. Each type has different work that they need to do in order to return back to our true self and our original virtue once again. Now, the name of each type and many of the characteristics of these types is actually that personality or that mask that we put around our true self that protects us. Now, the mask is neither good nor bad. As we move through the Enneagram journey, you may feel discouraged as you see yourself and your darkness and your light more clearly. But understand this, even the weaknesses of each number is what you needed in order to survive, especially as a child and a young adult. And they served you. Just like a baby needs to cry in order to get milk to survive, it's not bad, but at some point, it's no longer necessary. At some point, the child can learn how to use words, they evolve, they mature, and they don't need to cry anymore to get the food that they need. They can make it themselves. And that's what we're hoping to do with the Enneagram. These things that we use as masks, we needed them to survive, but now we can move beyond them. We no longer need them to survive. We've grown up. And that's what we want to do with the Enneagram. We want to start putting down our mask, putting down our armor, and come back to our true self. Now, because of time, I won't be able to go over in detail each number. I will be hosting more trainings and classes to do just that. I'm just going to briefly go over each number, and then we'll move into a few misconceptions about the Enneagram and how to find out what your number is. So let's start with the top of the Enneagram wheel, which is type 9s. Type 9s are peacemakers and mediators. Their core desire, what motivates everything they do, is a desire to find peace. Type 1s are the reformers. They are perfectionists. Their desire is to do good and to be good. Type 2s are the helpers. They want to help, they want to care, and they want to love and be loved. Type 3s are the achievers, and their mask is to bring value to others and to be admired. Type 4s are the individualists. They want to be different, authentic, and have significance. That motivates them. Type 5s are the thinkers, the observers. They want to be capable, competent. They want to understand the world. Type 6s are the loyalists. They want to feel secure and sure. They want to have support and guidance and a community around them. Type 7s are the enthusiasts. They want to feel free. They want to avoid pain and feel satisfied in life. And type 8s are the leaders and the challengers. They want to feel in control. They want to dominate and protect themselves and those they love. So that is a super brief overview of the different ways we see the world. And one of the things that people ask me is, can I be more than one number? So moving into some Enneagram basics, no, you're only one number. Now, of course, we all have a little bit of all the numbers in us. So you may say, well, but I want to have a peaceful life, just like a 9 does, or I like things to be done right, like a 1. Of course, we all have different parts of every single number, and as we go through the Enneagram work, actually the goal is to become integrated and to be able to have the strengths of every number in ourselves. And so that's the end goal, and we have little glimpses of that, but every person does have, at their deepest, a primary core motivation that kind of is their very first instinct. A 9's very first instinct in any situation is, how can I make peace and how can I have peace? Now, of course, they may want other things as well. They may want to help people. They may want to be a leader or whatever, but that's their core and first instinct. And you only have 1. So you cannot be more than 1 number. You also cannot have a 9 with a wing of a 4. Now, what is a wing? I'm not going to get too much into wings, but in the Enneagram graph here, you can see that each number has 1 on either side. The 3 has a 2 on one side and a 4 on the other. And if you are a 3, you can borrow traits and you can have a little bit of a flavor of one of the numbers on either side of you. So some 3s have the more flavor of a helper. They want to achieve, but they want to achieve in order to help others. Some 8s, for example, have the flavor of a 7. They want to be a leader, but they also love to have a good time and love life. Your wing can only be one of the 2 numbers on either side of you. And so you cannot be a 9 of a wing of a 4. And we'll get more into wings. Wings are just different flavors of your basic Enneagram type. And it actually makes it super fun because everyone is different. The next Enneagram basic is that you won't fit every description of your number. A lot of people have trouble with this when they say, okay, I think I'm a 5 or I think I'm a 6. And then they start reading the description of a 6 and they're like, yep, that's true. Yep, that's true. Oh, you know what? This one is not that true for me. And all of a sudden they freak out. Oh my gosh, maybe I'm not a 6. Oh my gosh, maybe not every single thing fits me. Or I kind of feel like some things that they say about a number 3 kind of fit me. It's okay. You won't fit every description. Don't freak out. The main thing you want to make sure is my core desire. The deepest core desire that I have, does it click in and does it fit with that number that's mine? Because the way it expresses can really have so many variations. Like I said, your wing can influence your variation. There's also instincts that influence your variations, which I'm not going to get into, but there's a lot of, obviously, just like imagine a rainbow and there's only a certain number of colors in the rainbow, but within each color, within the color red, there's a gradient of different shades of red. And it's the same with the Enneagram. You could be a 6, but you could be a certain type of 6 that maybe doesn't fit every description of most other 6s. And that's okay. That's the beauty of our world and what we have. So don't freak out if you don't fit every description. It's okay. There are no good numbers or bad numbers. Some people think, oh my gosh, I'm the worst number. I'm the number that's like always whatever. That's not true. There are no good numbers or bad numbers. Every number is great and every number can be unhealthy. Within each number, you can have a healthy 8 or an unhealthy 8. You can have a healthy 2 or an unhealthy 2. It really depends on the person and their level of personal health as to how great their number can be. But every number has the potential to be amazing. Like I said, each number has an original virtue, something beautiful and great that they bring to the world. And so if you're kind of feeling like, I think my number is like the worst number, I would encourage you to continue to dig into it and allow your study of the Enneagram to help you see the beauty that your number has, because every single number has amazing beauty to it. And the last part of the Enneagram Basics, I just want to cover, you can't change the way you see, but you can change how you respond. And what this is speaking to is that your number is how you see the world. So a number 1, for example, the perfectionist, they're going to see if that pillow on the couch is not in the right place. They can't stop seeing that. They can't stop themselves from noticing all the flaws around them. That will never change. However, knowing that that's who they are and how they see can help them to choose how to respond to how they see. So if they see that pillow, they can take a deep breath and say, you know what, it's okay. I can leave it. Or I'm gonna fix it, but I'm not gonna get mad that it's out of place. So you cannot change the way you see. Your number is just, those are the glasses you're wearing, and you were born that way, and that's awesome. But you can change through awareness and through growth how you respond. And that's really what we wanna do in our Enneagram work, is to change how we respond so we can get out of those patterns that don't serve us any longer. All right, so this is probably the question most people ask me. How do I find my number? Maybe you heard me go over the list of all those different numbers and you thought, well, maybe this one could fit me, but that one also sounds like it might be me as well. And so the question that most people ask me is, well, what's the best test? All the time people are asking me, what's the best test? And I'm so sorry to tell you, I don't believe that tests are the best way to find your number. Because tests can mostly only assess your actions. And a multiple different numbers could do the exact same thing for different motives, which makes tests unreliable. A 7 and a 3 may act the exact same way at a party, but they're doing it from very different core motives, and they are very different people. And so a test may confuse you, actually. And also, when we're taking a test, I don't know about you, maybe it's just the achiever in me that I need to get A's on everything, but I feel like most of us, when we take tests, we want to do well. We want to give the right answer because of the test. And so sometimes we might not answer honestly. We might answer how we wish we acted instead of how we actually act. And again, that may skew our results in a test. But instead, I would suggest reading a description of the number or listening to an interview with someone who is the same number that you are. And here's why. Now, this takes longer. Granted, it's not a quick test. But here's why I feel like this is the best way to find your number. When you're listening to someone share their experience, you want to connect to that person, and you're more willing to let your walls down and admit your own dark parts, your own insecurities, your own weaknesses when you hear someone else telling their story of the same. There's some sort of authenticity. When you hear someone else be vulnerable, you're willing to open up your own heart and sit with their story and wonder, is this my story as well? And when you hear someone who is your type sharing their story vulnerably, you will not help but connect with that person. Something inside of you will ring, this is me, this is my type, this is how I see the world too. And a light bulb just goes off. And now this does take time. One of my favorite quotes is, if you don't have the time to uncover your number, you don't have the time for Enneagram work. There's no shortcuts to personal growth. And you may say, I don't have the time to uncover my number right now. And to you, I would say that's okay. This may not be the time for you to do Enneagram work. You're still going to be here in a year or two if that's when you have time, and the Enneagram will still be here in a year or two. You don't have to do the work today. You don't have to dive in right now just because everyone's talking about it or everyone's doing it. But I would encourage you, wait until you have the time to uncover your number in the right way and to do the Enneagram work in the right way. It will be so much more fruitful and profitable than to try and shortcut it with a quick test that tells you who you are so you can read a description that's one paragraph long and move on with your life. That's not going to be the most helpful thing for you. And it may actually cause more harm than good if you get the wrong number from the test and you think you're one number and you're really not. So how would you uncover your number? Where would you read the descriptions? There's a couple places I recommend. One of them is a book called The Road Back to You. The other one is a book called Sacred Enneagram. Both of those will give great detailed descriptions of each number and can help you figure out, oh my gosh, when you read it, you're just like, yes, that's me. If you don't have time to commit to a book, podcasts are also a great way to get into a number and really hear the descriptions of it. Typology is one podcast that I recommend, and the other one is called Your Enneagram Journey. Those are two great podcasts. And if you have an idea that you may be 1 or 2 or 3 different numbers, a lot of times we can kind of pare it down to just a few. There are some numbers that you just kind of know, that's not me. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not I'm not a loyalist or whatever. So you can kind of get rid of a few numbers, and then the ones that are left, start listening to interviews with people who are those numbers and see how your soul responds to their experience. You're going to find something will resonate in you. Another way to figure out what your number is are Instagram accounts. Of course, you can follow mine, which is the Enneagram Workshop, but also I love XO Enneagram and Enneagram Explained. Those are great Instagram accounts. You can kind of scroll through, read the different descriptions and memes about different numbers, and some of them you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so me, and it can just help uncover who you are. Another thing you can do is you can use my PDF. Yes, I created a PDF, and it's very, very simple, but it's just a couple of statements that relate to each number, and whichever statements that you feel like are true to you, you would underline them, and then pay close attention to which numbers seem to have the most statements underlined. Now, in this PDF, it is so simple. There's literally 4 statements for each number, but the most important statement is the very first statement that I have in this PDF, and it's a statement that relates to your orientation to time. Your orientation to time is a big indicator of your type. Now, going back to the Enneagram graph here, there are certain numbers that have a different orientation to time. So some numbers, like the number 9, their orientation to time is the past. So if you are someone who constantly is in the past, thinking about conversations you had in the past, reminiscing about things that happened in the past, if you're mostly thinking about things in the past, you might be either a 9, a 5, or a 4. Those are the 3 types that are oriented to the past. If you are constantly in the present, thinking about what's happening right now, who needs me right now, what needs to be fixed right now, what's going on right now, you may be a 6, a 1, or a 2. Those numbers are oriented to the present. And if you are future-minded, always thinking about the future, what am I going to plan next? What should be done next? What can I achieve next? You're either a 3, an 8, or a 7. Those questions that talk about your orientation to time are incredibly important because that can really narrow you down to just 3 numbers. Just 3 numbers, and that's an easy amount of numbers to kind of go through and figure out what your type is. Be patient, guys. It's a journey, and it's never perfect. And it's okay if it takes you some time to figure out your number. It's okay if you have to work through a couple of different books or a couple of different podcast episodes before you figure it all out. All right, bringing it home. Why should we care? Why should we care what our Enneagram number is? Well, what I'm hoping to do with the Enneagram is to try and help others, once they found their number, to move beyond laughing at all the memes. And if you don't know what memes are, they're just these hilarious little photos with words on them that kind of make fun of or reveal the humorous sides of each different number. And they're floating around Instagram all over the place. And they really are. There's no one who loves a good meme more than I do. So they're hilarious and I love them. But I do want to help us to move beyond laughing at memes and really help people outline a path for growth. So if you can think of your life like a maze, and you're walking through this maze, it's one of those mazes where you can't see above yourself. You're just in a bunch of walls. And at the beginning of your life, you make it through the maze okay, because you always make certain decisions from a certain vantage point. Now, your Enneagram type is how you see the world. So if you are a type 6, you're always looking for the danger. And how do I avoid the danger? And where's the danger coming? You're looking off into the distance. So a 6 going through a maze may always pick the safest turn. Okay, this turn, I can hear down that corridor that sounds like there's some angry people. I'm going to stay away from them. I'm going to go the other way. So you're a 6, you're making every decision based on how you see the world. Maybe if you're a 4 who loves romance and beauty, you know, you're going to choose the most beautiful path of the maze, or the path that smells like cookies, and you're just going to follow your nose and your eyes and your senses and your emotions down that path. So each of us has a way that we see, and we can make it through the maze pretty well for a little while. But all of a sudden, the way that we see the world and make our decisions, it doesn't help us. All of a sudden, we keep bumping into dead end after dead end, and we can't find our way out of this maze. The Enneagram gives us a bird's eye view and it gives us a map. It helps us know where we are at and where we want to go and how we want to grow. We need to be able to move beyond our natural instincts of how we would make decisions and say, you know what? I'm a 6. I feel nervous going down that pathway that has the people who are screaming angrily, but I know now when I look at this map, that's the place I need to go. So I'm going to choose to go that way. I'm going to choose courage. I'm going to choose to grow beyond my number and trust that this is the path that's right for me. And so the Enneagram really gives us that map and that bird's eye view. But unless you follow the map, unless you do the work of growth and integration and returning to our true self and rediscovering our original virtue, nothing much will change. We'll keep bumping into that wall. Information without transformation is simply a lack of perspiration. So we can have all the inspiration in the world, all the information. I know what my number is. I know how my number acts. But it's not going to transform us unless we do the work. And at the Enneagram workshop, we're working on tools and resources to give each number specific steps, specific actions, meditations to move from means into maturity. That's really my heart. That's why I founded the Enneagram workshop. That's why I'm working on getting certified as an Enneagram teacher, because I really truly believe that knowing this system, yes, it's cool. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it can help our relationships, because I know now that my husband, who's a 9, you know, when he's stressed, he avoids work. When I'm stressed, I become a workaholic. And lots of things make sense. Lots of things get easier. Lots of things are more just understandable to be able to walk through life. But I truly believe the Enneagram work is so much more than that. It really is that returning back to our original virtue, being able to take off the mask, being able to say, I don't need this facade anymore. And before I finish, I kind of want to see you guys for this last part. Before I finish, I just want to share an amazing little parable, I guess you could say, that I got from a book that I was reading. And the parable is of an oak tree that has all these little acorns down below. And all these little acorns, they are just trying to be the best little acorns they can be. And they're trying to have the shiniest shell, and they're trying to have just the best little leaf pile that they can nestle in. And they're trying to be like the self-help acorns that just are the best. And all of a sudden, this old kind of cracked acorn walks up and says, guys, I had a dream, and I think we're not supposed to be acorns. I think we're supposed to be that. And he points up at the giant oak tree. And the acorns are like, what are you talking about? We can never be that. We're acorns. And we're going to be the best little acorns we can be. How would we even become an oak tree? And the old acorn says, well, I think we have to go down into the ground. And I think we have to allow our shells to break open. And then we can become that. I think that's what we're meant to be. And that's what the Enneagram work is. I can try to be the healthiest 3 I could be and try to be the best achiever I can be. But I think what I'm actually supposed to do is let go of that shell. Stop trying to achieve and allow myself to die to who I want the world to see me as, and instead become something greater, and instead become something that is the fullness of what's actually inside, how we were created to be. So that is my passion, and that's what I'm so excited. I hope that this class has helped you just get an introduction to the Enneagram. There's so many layers. I'm so excited for the rest of the classes that I have planned. But that's all I have for you guys tonight. Thanks so much for watching.